After 80 years of silence, the legendary Western cowboy Sam Elliott has finally spoken up, calling out 7 actors who, in his words, are not performing but clowning.
I'm thinking about it.
Hollywood has now become a place where so-called elite cowboys train with personal coaches and sip detox juice. Meanwhile, Sam spent decades sweating on real ranches, where every wrinkle on his face tells a story of sun, wind, and dust. Each fake performance is killing real art. Box office numbers are falling. Audiences are losing faith. And most importantly, it is an insult to the real men of the West. After nearly a century, Sam Elliott is ready to name each of these so-called offenders. There is Benedict Cumberbatch, the English gentleman, riding through Montana. And Jared Leto, the method actor whose style, according to Sam, is nothing more than self-torment for attention. But the 6th name will shock you even more. It is none other than an Oscar-winning star who once turned a film set into a circus by sending a dead rat and a cryptic in-character note to a fellow actor. Sam Elliott didn't grow up in a Hollywood studio. He was raised in the real West, where the days were long, the work was hard, and silence spoke louder than words. That salience stayed with him through a career that spanned more than 5 decades. He never chased fame. He didn't accept roles for money. He chose them because they meant something to him. For Sam, acting was never about standing out. It was about disappearing into a character that felt real. He believed that the truth on screen had to come from the truth in life. That's why, while other actors trained in air-conditioned studios or memorized lines in luxury trailers, Sam spent years living on actual ranches. He learned how to ride, rope, and survive under the same sun that shaped the men he later played. To him, every wrinkle on his face was a memory carved by wind and dust, not by makeup artists. What made Sam different wasn't just his voice or his look. It was the way he approached the craft. He believed in stillness, in the power of a pause. A single glance could say more than a full page of dialogue. And if a scene didn't feel honest, he wouldn't fake it. In interviews, he once said that the best acting doesn't shout, it whispers. And that whisper, if it's real, stays with you long after the movie ends. Sam never tried to control Hollywood. He just refused to let Hollywood control him. As the industry shifted toward louder performances and digital tricks, Sam stood still. He watched a new generation of actors bring more noise but less meaning. And as the gap grew wider, so did his silence. Until now. Because when the work starts losing its soul and people start clapping for the wrong reasons, even the quietest man has to speak. And that's exactly what Sam Elliott is about to do. So let's begin with the first name on his list. In 2021, Sam Elliott made headlines for a podcast interview that felt more like a showdown than a casual talk. He didn't hold back. He aimed straight at The Power of the Dog, a film praised by critics and nominated for multiple Oscars. But for Sam, it wasn't just another movie. It was a symbol of everything he believed was going wrong with Hollywood. And the name at the center of it all? Benedict Cumberbatch. To Sam, Cumberbatch didn't play a cowboy. He performed one. He criticized the actor's posture, accent, and overall delivery, calling it a prissy portrayal of a Western rancher. Sam's tone wasn't light or humorous. It was filled with disappointment. He asked, "What does this Brit know about the American West?" And in that moment, it was clear. Sam didn't see a role. He saw a costume party. What bothered him most wasn't the script or the direction. It was the lack of lived experience behind the performance. Sam spent years under the sun, working the land, breathing in the dust. Cumberbatch, on the other hand, trained for the role with dialect coaches and research materials. Hollywood loved the film for its psychological depth and modern take on masculinity. But Sam saw something different. He believed it misunderstood the silence, the struggle, and the dignity of the real West. When director Jane Campion fired back at Sam's comments during an awards speech, the debate exploded. She accused him of being out of touch and called him just an actor, not a cowboy. The media took sides, but Sam never responded. Because in his eyes, the truth didn't need a second round. He wasn't attacking just one man. He was defending a way of life. To Sam Elliott, acting isn't about imitation. It's about understanding something so deeply that it becomes part of you. And when it doesn't feel real, he can't pretend it is. Up next is a Hollywood heavyweight whose version of the cowboy looked great on screen until Sam looked closer. Sam Elliott has spent his life building a reputation based on honesty, silence, and grit. He doesn't act like a cowboy, he is one. That's why, when he watched Kevin Costner play tough ranchers in Wyatt Earp and Yellowstone, something didn't sit right. Costner brought a serious presence to the screen. He looked strong. He delivered his lines with weight. But for Sam, it all felt too clean, too polished, too rehearsed. He once told a close friend that Costner plays a rancher like it's dress-up, and that simple sentence said everything. To Sam, the West is not about stylish coats, perfect stubble, or slow-motion horse rides. It's about dirt under your nails. It's about silence in the face of loss. It's about doing what's right when no one is watching. That's the kind of life he lived. And that's the kind of truth he expects to see in a performance. Yellowstone was a massive hit. Millions of people tuned in. Critics praised it. The cast received awards. But Sam didn't see authenticity. He saw a show trying to sell drama wrapped in cowboy costumes. In private, he reportedly called it a soap opera with a cowboy hat and refused to be part of it even when offered a guest role. For Sam, that offer was not an opportunity. It was a test of values. Joining the show would have meant approving of something he didn't believe in. So he walked away, not to make a scene, but to keep his standards clear. People on set noticed the tension. Costner and Elliot never clashed in public. There were no fights, no harsh words. But the silence between them spoke volumes. Sam didn't dislike Kevin as a person. He simply rejected the version of the West that Costner helped create. Because when the dust looks fake, the pain feels scripted, and the boots are spotless, Sam Elliott stays out of the frame. Coming up next is a performance so chaotic that it made Sam question whether acting had lost its meaning entirely. When it comes to performance, Sam Elliott believes in control. He thinks a great actor knows when to speak and when to stay quiet. That's why his experience working with Nicolas Cage left him cold. They shared the screen in Ghost Rider, a superhero film filled with fire, motorcycles, and explosions. Cage took the lead role and played it with full energy. He yelled, growled, and moved like every second had to be bigger than the last. To many fans, it was exciting. But to Sam, it felt like watching someone set off fireworks for no reason. Sam respected the effort, but not the result. He believed Cage was performing for attention, not for truth. On set, Sam kept his distance. He spoke when needed, did his scenes, and stayed out of the chaos. There was no direct fight between them, but those who worked on the film said the mood was tense. Sam didn't criticize Cage out loud. He didn't have to. His silence said enough. To Sam, acting is not about making noise. It's about being honest. It's about showing real pain, real fear, and real love without turning it into a circus. He saw Cage as a man who turned every scene into a show, even when the script didn't call for it. Even years after Ghost Rider, Sam still uses Cage as an example of what he thinks is wrong with modern acting. He says some actors confuse being loud with being deep. They believe that more emotion means better performance. But Sam disagrees. He believes that restraint often shows more strength than shouting ever could. It's not that he hates energy or risk. He just doesn't respect actors who use those tools to cover up weak storytelling. For Sam, a wild performance without truth is worse than a quiet one with heart. That's why his opinion of Nicolas Cage has never changed. In his eyes, Cage became a symbol of acting that forgot its purpose. And if you thought that was harsh, wait until you hear about the next actor whose behavior on set made Sam walk away before the cameras even started rolling.
Whether it's truth or not.
When Sam Elliott joined the ranch, many fans were surprised. It was a Netflix sitcom, filled with jokes and fast cuts, starring Ashton Kutcher, a name mostly tied to comedy and tabloid fame. But Sam gave it a chance, hoping it would explore real American family life. From the beginning, Sam sensed a problem. Ashton Kutcher was the lead, but he didn't seem grounded. He had energy and charm, but to Sam, it felt like Kutcher was playing himself. Not a father, not a rancher, not a man shaped by hard work or real loss. Just a celebrity stepping into a role. Sam respected the showrunners, and he did his job with care. But behind the scenes, he rarely spoke with Ashton. Their conversations were short, limited to scripts and scheduling. They were never hostile, just distant. There was no bond, no connection. What bothered Sam most wasn't Kutcher's fame. It was the gap between how much attention he got and how little depth he brought to the role. Kutcher's face was everywhere, on the posters, on talk shows, on magazine covers. But Sam believed that real actors don't need a spotlight to be seen. They just need the truth in their performance. Sam once told a close friend that Kutcher treated acting like a brand deal. It was polished, safe, and built to sell. And that, to Sam, was the opposite of what acting should be. He felt that Kutcher never fully understood the weight of the story. He hit his lines. He smiled at the camera. But he never carried the soul of the character. Sam didn't ask for Kutcher to be removed. He didn't make a public statement. But when his contract ended, he quietly stepped back. And he never looked back. To Sam Elliott, acting isn't about learning from YouTube clips or mimicking emotion. It's about years of listening, failing, and observing people when they think no one is watching. And in the next chapter, we meet an actor who went to the opposite extreme, one who thought that pain must be real, even if it means crossing every line on set.
And I'm going to sit on the beach and let her see it.
Sam Elliott has always believed that acting should come from silence, not chaos. To him, great performances grow from honesty, not tricks. That's why Jared Leto's methods have always troubled him. Leto is known for pushing things too far. When he played the Joker in Suicide Squad, he didn't just wear makeup and rehearse lines. He became someone else entirely, even off camera. He sent his co-stars dead animals, used condoms and other strange items just to stay in character. Some called it brave. Sam Elliott called it a circus. Sam never worked directly with Leto, but he had the chance once. He was offered a role in a movie where Leto was the lead. After reading the script and hearing about Leto's intense behavior on set, he quietly turned it down. He didn't make a statement. He just said no and walked away. For Sam, acting isn't about shocking people. It's not about making your co-stars feel scared or uncomfortable. He sees that kind of method acting as dangerous. It blurs the line between performance and real life. And it often turns the whole production into a game of ego and control. Leto's style represents something bigger that Sam dislikes about modern Hollywood. It rewards noise over skill. Actors who yell, cry, or behave wildly are often praised as serious or deep. But Sam believes true depth doesn't need to scream. He once said that the best actors make you feel something real without ever raising their voice. On the set, Leto demands attention. Stories from crew members say he stayed in character all day, even during lunch breaks. Some actors found it inspiring, others found it exhausting. Sam saw it as a way to dominate a scene, not share it. One producer once told Sam that Leto's behavior caused delays, tension, and even official complaints from fellow cast members. There were arguments about safety, respect, and where the line should be drawn. To Sam, the answer was simple. If your art hurts the people around you, it stops being art. Sam has never shamed Leto in interviews, but when asked about extreme acting methods, he once replied, "There's no need to send rats or play games. If you need a stunt to be remembered, maybe the work itself isn't strong enough." That comment didn't name anyone, but many people knew exactly who he meant. Sam Elliott still believes in preparation. He trains, he studies, he puts himself into every role. But once the camera stops rolling, he knows how to step back and be himself again. He respects the crew, the set, and the people who make a film come alive. In his view, acting should build trust, not fear. And when fear becomes part of the process, something has gone deeply wrong. As the story moves on, we turn to someone much closer to Sam, a man who once felt like a brother. But even that bond wasn't strong enough to survive the quiet shift that changed everything. Sam Elliott once called Jeff Bridges a brother. They weren't just co-stars in The Big Lebowski. They were kindred spirits, two old souls who believed in quiet acting and deep emotion. Their bond was built on trust, respect, and a shared love for stories that meant something. During filming, Sam felt something rare. He wasn't just working with Jeff, he was connecting with him. They had long talks between takes about the industry, about family, and about what makes a role feel honest. There was no ego, just a quiet understanding. Together, they created one of the most iconic pairings in cult cinema. But something changed after Jeff Bridges won his Oscar for Crazy Heart. Success didn't make him louder or more arrogant, but something had shifted. He started choosing roles that Sam didn't understand, roles that felt more like performances than truth. The calm, grounded actor Sam began drifting into projects that felt distant and polished. There was no fight, no harsh words, just silence that grew over time. Sam never spoke badly of Jeff. He respected their history too much. But he once mentioned, in a soft voice, that not everyone who starts with you finishes the same way. To those who listened closely, the meaning was clear. They were both invited to the same award shows but rarely sat at the same table. They shared memories, not conversations. It was like watching a close friend walk further into a crowd, becoming harder to see, harder to reach. For Sam, that loss was harder than any Hollywood argument. Because Jeff wasn't just another actor. He was a part of a time when acting meant something real. Even today, fans bring up The Big Lebowski. They ask Sam if he and Jeff still talk. He always smiles, but never says yes. Their story isn't about betrayal. It's about a quiet distance, a space that grew not from hate, but from two lives moving in different directions. Now, as we step into the next chapter, the focus shifts away from personal relationships and back to a deeper clash of ideas. Because sometimes, the sharpest conflict doesn't come from actors, but from the minds behind the camera. Sam Elliott didn't just criticize actors. He also had strong feelings about the directors who shaped their performances. And when it came to Jane Campion, his words were sharp and clear. In The Power of the Dog, Campion tried to tell a story set in the American West. She used long, quiet shots and soft-spoken characters to create a feeling of loneliness. But to Sam, the movie felt fake. It was like someone painting a desert without ever stepping in the dust. He calls Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog a piece of shit. Campion is from New Zealand. Her views on the West came from books, movies, and secondhand stories. To Sam, that wasn't enough. In interviews, he said the film looked like it was made by someone who didn't understand ranch life or cowboy values. He said it was full of allusions to sexuality that distracted from the truth of the period. And he wasn't alone in thinking that. Many working cowboys agreed with him, calling the movie beautiful but dishonest. Campion fired back. She said Sam was being sexist. She claimed he just didn't like seeing a woman take control of a Western story. But Sam never mentioned her gender. His problem was with the story, not the storyteller. This fight showed something deeper, a divide between Hollywood's past and present. Sam represents the old school, where lived experience matters. Campion stands for the new wave, where meaning is built through symbols, not sweat. Both sides believe they're protecting the art of film. But they speak different languages. For Sam, the West isn't a backdrop. It's a real place filled with real people. And when someone tells that story wrong, he feels like those people are being erased. As this chapter ends, we're left with one final piece of the puzzle. Because what Sam hates most may not be a person at all, but a growing idea that threatens everything he stands for. Up next is the heart of his message, an attack not on one name, but on an entire system. Sam Elliott didn't speak out just to name and shame a few stars. He was calling out a bigger change in Hollywood, one that he believes is destroying everything that once made acting real. For Sam, acting is not just about saying lines or winning awards. It's about telling the truth, even when it's ugly or uncomfortable. He learned this not in studios, but in silence. Watching, listening, spending time with real people who lived the lives he would later play on screen. But in today's industry, truth often comes second. What matters now is image, speed, and how well a performance looks in a trailer. Directors pick actors based on their social media following. Studios care more about the opening weekend than the long-term message. And actors are trained to perform emotions, not feel them. Sam has watched this shift with growing sadness. He doesn't hate these 7 people for who they are. He resents what they represent. Each of them, in different ways, reflects a version of Hollywood that chooses style over substance. Some chase fame, others choose shock value. Some rely on technique while forgetting the heart. He worries that younger actors will look at these careers and believe that's the only way to succeed. That being loud, extreme, or trendy is more important than being honest. And when that becomes the standard, real stories begin to vanish. The cowboy, the soldier, the working man, these figures once stood at the center of American film. They were rough, flawed, and often silent. But their silence carried meaning. Now, those roles are either rewritten to be more marketable or handed to someone who has never lived a day like the person they're playing. Sam's anger comes from love. Love for the craft. Love for the audience. And most of all, love for the people who no longer see themselves in the movies made about them. He is not fighting against change just for the sake of it. He is asking a question. When did acting stop being about truth? And that question leads us to the heart of this story. Because sometimes the loudest voices in the room aren't the ones who matter most. Sometimes the one person standing quietly at the edge is the only one still telling the truth. Now, in the final chapter, we return to that quiet figure. At 80 years old, with more years behind him than ahead, Sam Elliott may not change Hollywood. But maybe, just maybe, he can remind it of what it used to stand for. At 80 years old, Sam Elliott is not chasing fame or awards anymore. He has stepped back from the spotlight, but he has never stepped away from what he believes in. For him, acting was never just a job. It was a way to show real people, real stories, and real pain. He may seem like a man from another time, but maybe that's the point. In a world that moves too fast, where flash often wins over feeling, Sam chooses to stand still. He chooses honesty, quiet strength, and the kind of performance that doesn't need special effects to leave a mark. Some call him stubborn. Some say he's stuck in the past. But there's something powerful about a man who refuses to follow a trend just to stay relevant. Sam Elliott didn't speak out to start drama. He spoke because he felt the silence had gone on long enough. Hollywood has changed, but that doesn't mean it has to forget what made it matter in the first place. Even if he's the last one still holding that belief, he holds it with everything he's got. Because sometimes, the last man standing at the old border isn't just guarding a line, he's guarding the truth.